Live from the floor of the Hilton Midtown in New York, it's MJ Unpacked and Green Rush Live for a Friday afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and sometimes host of Green Rush Live. And we're so happy to have the president of MJ Unpacked with us. And I think you were the founder of MJ Unpacked too, weren't you, George?
Yes, sir, I was. Yes, I was. Yeah, I actually co-founded the business with my wife, Kim.
There you go. Very good job, political. Yes. Very good.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely married up. She's absolutely the brains of the business.
And I met her last night, and it was very nice to meet.
Oh, good.
There you go. So George is the guy that also started another event that really most people in the cannabis industry know is in Vegas. It's called MJ BizCon, but he has completely regurgitated, resurrected, and changed that concept with MJ Unpacked. What's the biggest difference, George?
Well, there's a lot of trade shows that are out there that were launched in like kind of the mid-teens that, you know, really served a purpose for the industry to be able to provide the equipment, the tools, the technology for these companies. But the market's changed so much, and we're really at the dawn of the golden age of the brand. Brands are starting to emerge, looking for a national footprint, where they're going to start controlling the relationship with the consumer. And our show qualifies everybody who comes in to be a brand or retail executive with a title and manager hire, but we also let in accredited investors because the need for capital in the markets is so key right now, especially where the innovation happens, which is with the independent companies, with the single state license holders that are really, they're putting the backs of the industry on their shoulders.
Yeah, the passion is similar. Everybody in this industry cares about the industry.
Absolutely, and this is kind of one of our bigger overarching goals that, you know, we know that there's going to be a kind of a tsunami of investment capital and operational efficiency that comes in on post-federal legalization from alcohol, tobacco, and everything else. And it would be a sad day if we lose the thought leadership of the cannabis industry to alcohol and tobacco executives. This is an industry that is built on compassion. It's about medicine. It's about helping people. It's about changing people's lives for the better. It's not a gateway drug. It's an exit drug for people. It helps vets. It helps with a ton of medical conditions. It just makes people happier. It makes the world a better place.
No doubt about it. That's why I always say that. It's a whole new world of weed out there, George. You know that.
It is, my friend.
All right,
I mean, do you see all these amazing brands here?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Are you happy with the turnout?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like, again, we have 100 different brands from all across the entire country. This is the first show that ever has had brands and retailers from every state market in a single location to really see where the innovation is happening, see where things are really going to go.
That's George Jades. He's awesome. And now, because I was here for the last 48 hours, I've got a series of interviews that I've done from the floor of MJ Unpacked. That's going to make up the rest of this show. So before we head off to the beginning of Green Rush Live, including our regularly scheduled interview with Morgan Fox from NORML, George is going to start the show. Yeah! Pro Cannabis Media and PCM TV programming is supported by Revolutionary Clinics in Massachusetts, the #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Salient Systems for Video Surveillance. You've got regulations, Salient has solutions for your security needs. And by Accounting Buds, your #1 accounting solution for the cannabis industry. And by TCP's Style Lighting Grow Kit, all you need to grow. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Green Rush Live, this time on location in New York City. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and we'll have amazing interviews for you over the next couple of hours here on Pro Cannabis Media. A reminder again to please like, share, and subscribe to all of our content on the network. And we're so proud to have a weekly news show called We Talk News that follows this live stream at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Every third Friday of every month, we're able to sit down and talk a little bit with what's going on in Washington, D.C. with our friend Morgan Fox, now with the NORML organization. Morgan, great to see you again.
Hey, Jimmy. Great to see you as always.
All right. So obviously, it's early in the day at MJ Unpacked, obviously. This was obviously recorded earlier, but we are live streaming it now. And it must be good for someone who is in the trenches in D.C. and still knowing that the cannabis industry is alive and well and growing thanks to trade shows like this and entrepreneurial spirit and the passion for the cause.
Absolutely. I mean, if nothing else, it's an excellent sign that the stigma around cannabis is steadily eroding. And I think that we're more lawmakers able to see the type of shows that you're at right now. I think that things would probably move a little bit faster. So maybe that's something I can help facilitate in the near future.
Well, everybody's eyeing every little movement in Washington, D.C., sticking it under a microscope and seeing, does this mean federal reform is coming soon? And I guess the latest inkling that something might be brewing is, I guess, the Department of Justice this week urged the Supreme Court of the United States to not rule on any of the cases that are on their docket having anything to do with cannabis, because they feel that federal laws will be changing. I'm sure there's more to this story. Is there anything you can enlighten us on?
Not particularly. It's pretty cut and dry. Although, I don't necessarily know exactly what their motivations are beyond what they actually said publicly. But honestly, I think that it's potentially good, considering that we might be getting laws changed very soon, not to start setting precedent that might potentially impact the ability to change those laws.
So what's the latest, Morgan? We know Chuck Schumer has said, okay, now it's going to be August. He also was I'm pretty sure it was at the New York City parade a couple of weeks ago, celebrating cannabis in the pouring cold rain, and talked about actually getting some Republican senators to at least talk to him. Is it really that difficult for one side of the aisle to talk to the other side of the aisle about this issue?
Pretty much about every issue these days. But to tell you the truth, I don't think it's necessarily an issue of not being able to get Republicans to engage on this issue, but more of Schumer's team wanting to get a little bit more feedback from committee leaders and his Democratic colleagues before presenting something and getting more feedback from Republicans. But that being said, I'm sure that Republicans are paying much more attention to this, as well as to cannabis policy reform generally, particularly as we get closer to the midterms. And honestly, while we see a lot of Republicans start parroting the Mitch McConnell lines every time Democrats include anything related to cannabis in larger legislation, I think that's partially out of concern that Democrats could get in terms of a bump in the midterms. So, in some cases, maybe a desire to take leadership of this this issue if the House or the Senate flips.
So I was chatting with an attorney, connected attorney to the cannabis industry yesterday, and we had a little chit chat about the Cole memo, the famous Cole memo that pretty much was put out there under the Obama administration, I'm pretty sure, and then rescinded by Jeff Sessions under that other administration. And he thinks that there actually might be a reinstatement of that Cole memo as part of reform. Have you heard anything like that?
So I think that there are several things that need to happen. I mean, first of all, since the Cole memo was rescinded in 2018, in practical terms, we haven't really seen that much of a difference in enforcement patterns from before, when the Cole memo was official policy. But I think that a lot of folks in the industry, as well as consumers, would really prefer to see that in writing, even though it's just a policy and doesn't have the force of law. Having it be an official statement and official guidance for federal attorneys, I think would make people rest a lot easier. From my discussions with the Department of Justice, as well as Department of Interior and other people that are really close to the issue, I don't think that there's going to be reinstatement of the Cole or Wilkinson memos unless directed to do so by President Biden. And this is clearly not a priority issue for him. Even though since we last spoke, he pardoned a few people with marijuana convictions and granted some clemency. It's a drop in the bucket and woefully inadequate, but at least it's moving in the right direction. That being said, I don't think that the administration is quite there yet to start going out of its way to direct the Department of Justice to reinstate the Cole memo. However, depending on what the appropriations process looks like, which is really kind of wrapping up at this point, I expect to see language introduced, at least as an amendment, that would explicitly direct the Department of Justice to release an official statement about its policies regarding state compliant or tribal compliant cannabis behavior.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, there was a pretty big news item this week that did have some federal implications to it in an odd way. That this company, Bright Green Corporation, went public on NASDAQ, and supposedly the DEA has given this company the opportunity to at least build a facility to grow cannabis in New Mexico for federal research. And this was the first time that the DEA actually offered this to another operation besides the old University of Mississippi deal that's been in place for decades. And we know that was kind of laughed at by the industry. This is a company, according to Deborah Borchardt, who's my go-to source on these kinds of things. You know, this is a company that has no revenue, and yet they were able to raise a lot of money in a bear market on the stock market. I know you're familiar, you must be familiar with this story. Is this another sign, however, that the DEA actually understands that, yes, we have to have better quality cannabis for research purposes?
Well, I mean, the DEA has been saying for years that they were going to start fast tracking approval for additional producers for research purposes. You know, the fact that they're finally getting around to do it, I suppose, is a good sign. You know, not knowing enough beyond the article that you read about this company, you know, I can't necessarily say if they're particularly deserving of this this application or this this grant, but you know, I think that hopefully we will see additional licenses and additional dispensations being granted in the near future. And if they're not, then we really need to hold the DEA accountable, because, you know, they've been continuously upping their request quota without providing the means to actually do it. You know, maybe that could get fast tracked as well when the conference committee for the House and Senate research bills are able to you know, come up with a reconciliation bill for that. But you know, I think that that's probably a few months away.
There you go. Taking a look at some of the states, there was definitely a snag and a roadblock in New Hampshire where they thought they might be able to get a cannabis bill in place for adult use, and then finally a committee shot it down in their Senate. And Delaware, it doesn't look like now that's going to move forward. Is there anything to read in between the lines on either of those, or is it just individual states still dealing with the stigma and the challenges of moving forward with legalization or decriminalization?
Well, New Hampshire has been kind of a unique animal and a longstanding, frustrating, and confusing issue. You know, the fact that you know, representatives of the live free or die state seem to be taking it as a point of honor that they're an island in the middle of a sea of sensible cannabis policy reform laws. You know, I think that that's really going to take a change in what the New Hampshire legislature looks like. Unfortunately, it's kind of huge, so that could be pretty difficult. But I'm sure that the folks on the ground are already strategizing for ways to do that before the next legislative session, wherever possible. As far as Delaware goes, that was kind of a tricky situation to begin with. You know, again, pretty unique. You know, in my experience, I'd never seen a bill get split up like that on the same, basically the same session, and you know, basically using one to horse trade against the other. It's pretty fascinating. You know, we've been hearing some talk about how if this doesn't, like if the regulation bill doesn't pass, then folks are going to try to veto the possession bill, which did pass. I tend to think that that is a little bit of a stretch. You know, I think that that might be just something that lawmakers are saying because they want to try to put extra pressure to pass the regulation bill, which they should. But, you know, at the very least, I think that it's possible that some form of compromise is possible in Delaware in the near future going forward. So hopefully we won't have too much longer to wait in that state. But in terms of national significance, I think that it's kind of indicative that the issue of cannabis policy reform and legalization has gotten a lot more complicated as people learn more about it. And as states are able to look at what has happened elsewhere and start looking at a lot more of the details of the legislation, rather than having it be, you know, relatively simple as it had been in the past. And, you know, the fact that lawmakers seem to be pretty engaged on details, while occasionally frustrating, I think overall is a good sign.
And any impact of the fact that this is President Biden's home state and they're afraid to maybe upset their native son?
If that's the reason why things are moving slowly, it's the first I've heard of it. In terms of the potential benefit of that, honestly, I think it would be huge. If President Biden on a weekly basis is going back and forth between two jurisdictions where cannabis is legal, it definitely creates an opportunity to put a little bit more pressure on him.
There you go. Hey, Morgan Fox from the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, our favorite lobbyist in Washington, D.C. I so appreciate talking with you every third Friday of every month. And please keep up the good work, Morgan.
Thanks, Jimmy. Talk to you soon.
You bet. And we are going to take our first break now on Green Rush Live. And I can tell you, you want to stay tuned until the final interview, because I'm sitting down with a woman named Tanya Griffin from OOyes.love. And yes, we're talking about that three-letter word that, as she says, anybody who's interested in sex should check out her products. We'll have that after our regular 420 salute through Jonathan Edwards and Shanty. Back with more Green Rush Live from MJ UNPacked in New York after this.
Yeah, this is a tune that I wrote back in 19... I've forgotten. We had a saying in our old band, one of my first bands in 1966 or so. What are you going to do tonight? Oh, just, like every other night, just going to lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. Gonna sit down in the kitchen, fix me something good to eat. Make my head a little high, make the whole day complete. Gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. Pass it to me, baby, pass it to me slow. We'll take time out to smile a little before you let her go. We're gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. You're on something. Go ahead. Rick Brodsky, everybody. Nothing to do and there's always room for more. Fill it, light it, shut up and close that door, baby. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Take it, okay. Prohibition never works, it's time to realize it. It grows in my backyard, it's time to legalize it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. I'm going to sit down in my rented car. I'm going to jam it into drive. Gonna head on out and play at WSCA with Sean. I'm glad I'm alive. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on every night and day. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out Style Lighting. Pro Cannabis Media and PCM TV programming is supported by Revolutionary Clinics in Massachusetts, the #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Salient Systems for Video Surveillance. You've got regulations, Salient has solutions for your security needs. And by Accounting Buds, your #1 accounting solution for the cannabis industry. And by TCP's Style Lighting Grow Kit, all you need to grow. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Green Rush Live. I'm Jimmy Young on location this week at MJ UNPacked, one of the newer big cannabis trade show and investment opportunities available to the cannabis industry here in New York City. And I'm in Podcast Studio 1, and I'm going to be providing interviews for you for the next couple of hours from different interesting people that we've met here at the show. One is James Hunter. James, you are with Highbridge Premium.com.
That's correct. Nice to be with you today.
Nice to be with you too, sir. You're from Minnesota,
Originally from Minnesota.
which we say is Minnesota.
There you go.
How'd I do?
You could be there. You could live there.
How many lakes are there?
Uh,
Thousands. Very good. There you go. James, tell us about what Highbridge Premium Cannabis is all about, because you explained it to me. It had to do with beverages, and it's not coffee.
it's not coffee, and this the project was the result of a couple years worth of research, and what we discovered was there were a scant number of beverages available with cannabis infusions, and the ones that were there, quite honestly, weren't very good. So our mission was to create beverages that were very drinkable, social, and prominent in appearance and flavor and quality. It's kind of what we say: Highbridge, all premium, all natural, all the time. So we started out making a beer. That progressed into 4 different beers. Faux beer, we call them, because there's no alcohol. They're lab creations. There's never a fermentation process. It's not an alcohol extraction. We like to think that they taste every bit as good, if not better, than some of the conventional beers. Our taste testings have shown about a 4-to-1 preference for ours over traditional beers. So we're real happy with the beer products. We then went on to make a couple of what we call botanical seltzers. On the beer, going back to the beer, the separator for us from anybody else who was trying to make that kind of a product, basically by infusing a lot of hops into some sparkling water and then trying to infuse THC, and it tastes terrible. So ours, the mission for the lab was to make a product that looked like beer, tasted like beer, smelled like beer, acted like beer, and they were successful. So the botanical seltzers, we were looking for a separator, a differentiator from the conventional grapefruit, lemon, lime kind of seltzers that are out there. So we do infused botanicals. So we will mix like a watermelon basil infused seltzer. Those are the flavor profiles that we're looking for. We did early on, we did a energy drink. And the energy drink is in a 12-ounce beverage, but we also condensed it into a 2-ounce shot. So we have both the 2-ounce and the 12-ounce energy drinks. Our last venture, not our last, second to the last, we created 2 efficacies of an aphrodisiac shot.
Yahoo!
Yeah, absolutely. We call it Higher Love and Higher Love Plus. One is a 7.5 milligram product, 2-ounce shot, and the other is a 10 milligram product, 2-ounce shot.
When you say 2-ounce shot of liquid, what's the infused percentage of THC cannabis?
THC cannabis in all of our products except for the aphrodisiac shot, which is a 7.5 milligram. Everything else that we've talked about is a 10 milligram, except in states where the maximum, like Massachusetts, which has a limit of 5. So you just have to buy twice as much, you know. So, but typically all the beer products, all of the seltzers, the energy drinks, shots, those are all 10 milligrams. And the aphrodisiac shots, there's a 7.5, a milder version, and a 10, which is the aphrodisiac shot plus. We just created, it's not even out yet. It just got out of R&D about 3 weeks ago, and we're going through the co-packing on it. It's a 2-ounce, 100 milligram THC milligram tincture, and it's our sleep aid called Euphoria. And
is there CBN in that sleep aid, or only CBD, or what's the makeup?
The makeup is a 100 milligram tincture comprised mainly of THC. There is about 50 grams, as I recall, milligrams rather, not grams, 50 milligrams of CBD that's in there also. And that's an eyedropper application, and it's intended as a sleep aid, so basically just 3 or 4 drops under the tongue, and yeah. But we like to think that all of our products have a fabulous flavor profiles and palate pleasing, you know, that kind of thing. So we're real happy with it. Our goal right now is we're relatively new to the industry, obviously. We're in California, Arizona, Texas, Massachusetts, soon to be Illinois, and we're looking at Louisiana, North Carolina, Nevada, and Colorado. So that's the lineup for
the one state, as you know, the one state that piqued my interest right away was Texas, right?
Texas, yeah.
Okay, because in Texas, as you probably know, okay, there is no legal THC Delta 9 product, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the Delta that is derived directly from the plant, as opposed to the Delta 8, which is legal in Texas from hemp, right? Correct. So what is in your beverage in Texas?
It's the Delta 8 product. And we were approached, we had no intention of going to Texas until it was legal, and that the Beverage Expo in San Francisco last November, some people from Texas saw us, liked what we were doing, got a hold of us, and we've created a relationship. And my intent of the relationship was, I fully expect Texas to be legal in the foreseeable future. And I thought, this is a marvelous way to get the brand out in front and start building the brand ahead of delivery of the product. They had a much different idea. They wanted to make product using the Delta 8 formula. And so...
and license it in other states where Delta 8 is legal. Am I correct?
That's right. That's where Louisiana and North Carolina come in. And they have facilities in those.
You're not concerned. The nice thing about what you're doing is you can adapt to whatever the law is. Am I right?
Of course. We try to, yeah. As you know, compliance is probably the number one issue that we have, no matter what state it is. So.
An issue, or do we call it a challenge?
Both. It's a challenging issue.
I love that. Let's get back a little bit to your own personal story. I read in your quick bio that you were a cannabis neophyte before you got into this business. And you kind of look like you're age appropriate to me. Do you remember the 60s or the 70s?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
I was in college late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
And
so you two were born in the decade of the 50s.
Yeah.
So we are
baby boomer kind of thing,
okay,
you know.
Right. So let me ask you a question as a fellow baby boomer.
Yeah, right.
Okay, can you believe that we're talking about weed as a legal commodity in the United States of America in our lifetime?
The dialogue started with us back in the 60s and 70s. And
I was 7, but that's okay.
well, you're a little older than me, but we had. I was probably one of the few guys to go through those 60s, 70s without using.
We call that the experimental teenage years.
Yeah, and I evaded or avoided, however you.
Were you an athlete?
I was, yeah.
That's why, am I right?
Exactly, yeah. So, and then careers and everything else just kind of I never got around to it, and when cannabis was brought up as a business proposition. For the last 20-some years, I'd been doing venture capital, mergers and acquisitions, that sort of thing. And I couldn't wrap my head around how I would position myself in an industry that was that legally fragmented, state by state, no way to scale it, et cetera, et cetera. And I happened to be in California visiting with a good friend of mine who owns 20-some dispensaries in the greater LA down to San Diego area. And he asked me that question, why are you reticent about jumping in? And I said, well, first of all, I know nothing about it. Second of all, I don't really see how I position myself to make any money in this. He said, I came out here 8 years ago, California, and he said, I had no experience with it. He was in the restaurant business. And he said, I came out here specifically to get into the cannabis business. And he said, I now have 23 dispensaries. And last year, I grossed $600 million. And
That's a friend of yours?
yeah.
Can you introduce me to him at some point?
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. He's traveling in Europe.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Or he's in the Caribbean, hanging out, doing whatever he wants to do, which is a beautiful thing. So that you're not the first entrepreneur in the cannabis industry that has this story. Now, a lot of people I talk to have stories about how it's saved their life, how it's changed their life, whether they were on opioids or dealing with some of the horrific diseases that they've already proven through science and research, it has an impact on your Crohn's disease, your epileptic seizures, all that stuff. But you were a business guy.
Yeah.
And you looked at it strictly from a business perspective. Now, there are people out there, in fact, I know I just read one of my buddy Kurt Dalton's columns on cannabis.net. 43% of cannabis companies in the United States right now are making money, which means 57% are not. We're still at the toddler stage of this industry, but as a businessman, you couldn't resist the temptation of the upside. Am I accurate?
Everything is risk reward. As Damon Runyon said back in the 50s, all of life is 9 to 5 against.
Did Damon get high, you think?
You think? How else do you come up with guys and dolls?
It is what it is. We know Carl Sagan was hanging out with Lester Grinspoon, right? So there's some brilliant minds in the 60s and 70s that were enlightened, as they say.
Absolutely.
Now that you're in it, what's the biggest barrier to entry for you, and do you do banking?
Banking and taxes, probably, and the whole regulatory scheme. But I don't take it personally because it affects everybody the same. So there are solutions to the banking. It's cumbersome, it's expensive, but there are solutions. Not so much on the tax side of things. The tax side of things is something that hopefully gets resolved with appropriate legislation and all of that.
I can bring you an up-to-date report on what's going on in D.C. if you really want to know the inside scoop, because all you have to do is watch Weed Talk News on a regular basis on Pro Cannabis Media, right?
I love that. I would love for you to have a conversation at some point with one of the members of my board of directors. I'm very proud of our board. I think we're the only cannabis company in the country that has a former United States Senator on the board of directors.
Who's that?
Senator Dean Barkley from Minnesota.
Minnesota again.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dean is a cannabis advocate, and he's our inside pipeline to D.C. And our board is...
by the way, I so want to interview him. We have an upcoming show on lobbyists and the law, and we definitely will reach out for you for that.
Yeah, and I've got some other interesting people on that board, too. So we wanted to create a company that actually looked like a company. That was one of the things I required, because being in the M&A industry, the venture cap industry, that's a fairly tightly regulated, SEC regulated industry to begin with. So I'm familiar with regulatory BS. So, this just took it to a different level is all.
The highest level of all time, really.
Yeah. So that really wasn't, that really didn't scare me too much. I knew we'd be able to navigate that. I tell people who are looking to get in, it's not for the faint of heart. You have to be prepared to meet the challenges, and you have to be prepared from a capital structure standpoint, or it'll eat you up. And you have to know what you're doing from a business standpoint, because you can know everything from seed to store, but if you don't know how to manage that from a business perspective, you're doomed for failure. So
we have a couple of beverage people that we've talked to from Massachusetts that are doing pretty well. And one of the interviews we had, the guy's name is Jason Raposa, and he made a great comment that he had talked to an oncologist, a cancer doctor. And the cancer doctor understood and recognized the power of the medicinal value and its purposes with treating cancer. One of the biggest frustrations, as you've already alluded to about the Bay State, my home native land, okay, is the limitation of THC in the beverage product. Now, what I don't understand is if there is truly a medicinal value here, and I know someone who might be battling cancer, I'm going to want to go to somebody who knows how to make what you're doing and create me a medicinal cocktail with high THC, so it will impact those horrible cancerous cells in my body.
And this is one of the workarounds that we're exploring right now. We have a new line of products that we call our mocktails, high tails we call them. But one of the things that we're toying with is a larger container, 24 ounce with 100 milligrams. And the laws allow you to do that so long as there's dosing requirements on the receptacle.
Wait a minute, hang on a second. I love America, do not get me wrong, but the warning label on the beverage that says, be careful, this is 100 milligrams, okay? Don't mean nada when you're there experimenting for the first time. You understand that?
No, absolutely not.
Human nature as it is, right? We always tend to do a little too much at the beginning. Is that accurate?
That's truly accurate indeed. But it's just, like I say, for every impediment, you can find a workaround. That wasn't our core competency. We viewed ourselves more as a grab-and-go kind of a beverage. And a beer, as an example, is not conducive to opening it up, pouring out a dose, and then putting it back in the fridge or something. It'll lose its efficacy quickly. So that's why we go and grab a six-pack or something, go to the beach, go to your cocktail party, whatever. But if you walk into virtually any dispensary now, the big selling items for the big consumer are 100 milligram plus, even up to 1,000 milligrams in some states. But on each one, it'll say 1 capful equals 1 dose, or something to that effect, or it'll have little etchings on the side of the bottle.
I use tinctures, I got the etchings, I understand 1 dropper, a half a dropper.
So we're toying with that idea too.
The whole industry is toying, am I right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So
this is again, it goes back to the challenges. Forget the government. It's just the product itself, because of the impact it can have on your body, because of the endocannabinoid system that everybody has that balances your nerve receptors and your feelings and your emotions and your adrenaline and your metabolism. It touches all the things that make us humans as opposed to mammals, even though other mammals have an endocannabinoid system, right?
Absolutely.
How much research did you have to do on this background, and did you find it, I guess is my question?
I did about 2 years worth of research, both from what the product or what cannabis was, what it meant, and from the standpoint of market comparisons with the U.S., what I expected to see in the U.S. after watching Canada's market, et cetera. So it was a little over 2 years before I finally pulled the trigger and set the company up and all of that. So
can I ask you what years that might have been? Because, again, the research that has been done in this industry for a long time was limited to the crap that the University of Mississippi grew, right? I think we all know that, and I'm not
dissing the cannabis, but that's what it was pretty much referred to, and they kept it in a freezer. So if it wasn't crap when it was grown, it certainly was crap when it came out of the freezer. Okay, now, at least now, and this is a news item that happened this week, that the DEA has approved a company to grow federal legal cannabis in New Mexico. This, to me, that's one of the, I think that might even be the lead story on the We Talk News this week, because to me, that's the federal government actually recognizing that there's medicinal value to this and we have to study it.
I agree 100%, and I think that from an academic standpoint, you can learn the basics. I learned more by talking to the people in Humboldt, California.
I just got a text from James and Wendy from Humboldt, our pals. They know what they're doing out there, don't
they? They definitely know what they're doing. They've become great friends, and I've learned as much from them and a couple other guys in the industry that do the same thing we're doing, who have become mentors to us. So, yeah, we had the foresight to do a lot of research for the 2 years prior to the pandemic, and then
it really was 18 to 20.
Yeah, and then we had the unbelievable foresight to launch a business right in the beginning of the pandemic. So
did I. Okay.
So as I say, this is not a business for the faint of heart. No. You know, you got to be prepared for it. Getting back to the medicinal purposes and uses and whatnot, I'm going to take just a second because I'm very proud of a relationship that just has recently, it was cultivated several months ago and has recently
come to fruition.
Pretty much come to fruition. Okay. And this is something that is we've kind of always been looking for an alliance to some sort of charitable kind of work that we could attach to what we're doing. And we were approached by Realm of Caring, and I'm not sure if you know about Realm of Caring.
I actually have heard of Realm of Caring. Go ahead.
And you mentioned all of the various maladies that...
Not all of them, but some of them.
But yeah, that some of them can be compromised or managed by cannabis, and that's actually the Charlotte's Web story. And Realm of Caring is an offshoot of Charlotte's Web. And I was taken in by this story of how this poor child who had an epilepsy kind of a malady, it was an epilepsy, and they had no idea what they were going to do. And at 3 years old, she was having 300 seizures a week. And she, the mother, a woman by the name of Paige Figge, started searching for holistic and alternative remedies and ran across cannabis, got a hold of the Stanley brothers, who I call the Smith brothers of cannabis, but...
Analogy. I'm not sure everybody remembers the Smith brothers, so we're showing our age again.
I don't know if they even make it anymore. But they said, hey, if you have a little faith and you want to give us a chance, we'd love to take a look at this. And within 45 to 60 days, the child was experiencing not 300 a week, but 2. And she went on to live a fairly complete, fruitful life.
Unfortunately, she passed.
Unfortunately, she did pass, but from other causes. Right, and the daughter's name was Charlotte, thus the name Charlotte's Web.
That's great. I took Charlotte's Web. In fact, I've pretty much taken every product that is handed to me, given to me, or there are some times I actually go into my medical dispensary and I do a multi-CBD to THC ratio because my body's riddled with arthritis. So I had my medical card since it started in Massachusetts. I too was an athlete once, James. Tell me, were you a football guy by any chance?
What gave that away?
Because he's bigger than me, and all right. And Mama didn't let me play football. She said, "You go play soccer. It's just as rough." And she was right, as she normally was, And and I befriended all the kickers on the football teams. By the way, Matt Barr, John Smith, Tony Franklin. You might know this team, Adam Vinatieri, Stephen Gostkowski. Those are the kickers of the New England Patriots. Right. I'm just saying. And one in particular, John Smith, back in the day, became kind of a soccer entrepreneur in the area. And my last competitive soccer game was with John Smith when I ruptured the disc in my back at age 42. And I've never returned to the competitive soccer arena, as it were. James, you know, with your background in business, there's so many questions I can come up with for you, but we're starting to get up against it. I just want to ask you one more question, because you are from the M&A world.
I am.
Right, that's what you said, right?
Yep.
So is your exit strategy to be acquired perhaps by a major beverage company? Lord knows there's quite a few of them in the United States. Is that the exit strategy here?
We know that's a likely candidate. When I started the company, I created 2 exit strategies, both dependent upon the laws in the United States changing. Simultaneously, we will be a target for a takeover, a buyout, and or we have the option of going public and becoming a publicly trading company and enjoying the multiple of growth that allows one on the public market. So it's a 2-pronged exit strategy, and they'll both be coming upon us at about the same time. So we have a goal in mind, and we'll see how close we get with either one of those. So I'm not married to either exit, but I'm engaged to both of them.
There you go. And by the way, Vicky didn't show, okay? I was expecting Vicky, and James shows up, and I'm like, all right, I'll talk to James. One more question about federal reform. Okay, you've already alluded to 280E. We've talked a little bit about banking. If you had to choose between decriminalization, safe banking, or getting rid of 280E, which of those 3 do you think would be the most powerful to your business?
They all help. I don't see any of them as a cure-all for the challenges in the industry. I think what I would like to see, and certainly most of the people that I collaborate with and talk with, we'd like to see an omnibus bill that just takes care of everything, rather than we'll do banking today, we'll get around to decriminalization next year.
You sound like what Chuck Schumer's trying to do in the Senate, and as you know, he's having some issues.
Yeah, I think a lot of this hopefully gets resolved after these midterm elections and things settle down. You just don't know. It's
You're an optimist, man.
always. I wouldn't be in this business if I wasn't.
I'm from Massachusetts, so at least I'm rooting for that to happen too, let's just say. But I am scared about what's going on in this country right now.
I know what you mean.
But we still love it. Still love it.
Always, absolutely.
No politics. No politics.
No. I just. But it's another reason to participate in our product.
I was going to ask you about interstate commerce, but you know what? I'm getting up against it, so I'm gonna leave. It's a huge challenge, but in your case, because you have a recipe, you can license that into states that are either legal states or even illegal states based on their laws, correct?
Yeah, we also have, when we go into another state, I'll try to be really brief, but we go into the state with the idea of owning the license, but because of the time restraints on doing that, as Texas, as Massachusetts, rather than apply for the license, wait 18 months and then start production, the workaround there is a licensing agreement with somebody who's already licensed while our license is pending. And thereby, the goal always is to increase the value of the corporate portfolio. And the licenses may not be necessary, but it does add value to the corporate portfolio. Not as much as revenue, but the license does help.
And this is the second revenue speech I've had in the last 3 hours. I get it, okay? I get it, okay? James Hunter, great talking with you. You know, you never know who you're going to meet at these things, and then you start talking to them like this, and then you become kind of friendly. I really enjoyed chit-chatting.
Me too. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it is highbridgepremium.com. James Hunter, thank you very much for joining us on Green Rush Live, and we're going to have more of this show live from MJ UNPacked. Don't go away.
Pro Cannabis Media and PCM TV programming is supported by Revolutionary Clinics in Massachusetts, the #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Salient Systems for Video Surveillance. You've got regulations, Salient has solutions for your security needs. and by Accounting Buds, your #1 accounting solution for the cannabis industry, and by TCP's Style Lighting Grow Kit, all you need to grow.
Difference is building a solution for that individual, not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a very special edition, live from MJ UNPacked at the Hilton Midtown in New York City. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and a sometimes host of Green Rush Live. But as we all know, we're trying to share the wealth at Pro Cannabis Media. Joining me is Eric Block. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of Wana Brands. And Wana Brands is, I believe, the #1 edible product in the world. Am I right?
It could be said that way. I think the way
I can say it any way I want.
Yes, you can. And I think, #1 can be utilized and said in a lot of different ways. And so for us, I think success isn't necessarily on just being that #1 label. I think for success for us is really about fulfilling our mission and realizing what we're out to do.
Now, that mission I am a little bit familiar with because this is a women-owned, women-operated major cannabis company, correct?
It is. And you forgot female-founded. Right?
Women founded.
And that person is Nancy Whiteman, who co-founded Wana Brands in 2010. So it's one of the original OG edibles brands in the cannabis space.
OGW, old women. No, never mind. Doesn't matter. Female. That's the key. Can I ask you a question? You are a male. You are the Chief Revenue Officer. And what is that like for you in that environment? And what do you see that women bring to business that guys who are really just concerned about, well, whatever they're concerned about? What do women bring to the table when it comes to business?
Well, I honestly, that's a loaded question. And I don't want to generalize.
Careful how you answer it.
What I will speak upon is my own experience, which I think is really what you're getting at.
Yes.
I come from obviously a family. I have 2 older sisters. I have a strong mom. So for me, being around very strong, intelligent women is nothing new. Working with Nancy, and I think that's really the question that you're asking. She is really an outlier for me in terms of working with her. She's someone who really understands business. She really understands cannabis. She understands marketing. She's involved in all aspects of the company. She's involved with the vision. I mean, she is the visionary behind Wana Brands. So really, for me, it's about working with Nancy and our executive team and everyone else that trickles down, because it's a mission that we all buy into.
Right. Come on. Women are better listeners than men. Am I right or wrong, Eric?
I would say in my experience with the people that I've come in contact with, yes, women are very good listeners.
Because I get ripped about that all the time. I'm very comfortable saying that. Yeah. That's why I have to write a lot of stuff down.
To your experience. So
I'm not asking. I really wanted to know it from you. Anyway, tell us about how this brand dominated the edible space.
So I think it is an evolution. As I mentioned, it was something that started in 2010, and it's been an evolution over the past 12 years.
Smart management.
Very smart management. I mean, very smart management, smart visions, understanding, there's a lot of components to doing it. It just doesn't happen overnight. It starts obviously with the mission. It starts with the foundation of core of mission and values, and then it expands on to products, right? And then creating the best products, and then innovating on those products, and then understanding that cannabis is medicine, the basis of everything that we do. I mean, this whole show is amazing, but we all have to remember something is bigger than all of us, and that is the plant. The plant is the whole reason that we're here. And I know that Nancy and our team gets that. And so it's always been this innovation pipeline of bringing products, innovating, and providing unique experiences so that our products can enhance people's lives and make people's lives better. That's the mission. That's what we're here for.
I can't tell you how many times as a journalist, producer, host, whatever, I've heard these expressions: cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life. Do you have an anecdotal story at all about the Wana edible products that you'd like to share?
I could tell you that weekly we get emails from our consumers and our patients who utilize our products and tell us how our products are changing their lives. We share those internally. We reach out to them, we connect with them, we thank them, we obviously engage with them, give them swag. We really want to create this family environment, and their emails and their communications to us is what continues to inspire us every day. Because cannabis is hard. It's a hard industry to be in. It's a roller coaster ride. There's ups, there's downs, and especially if you're in multiple markets. We're in 14 U.S. markets right now, and then 15 if you add in Canada, which is another 9 provinces, so really like 23, and we're going to be adding more markets in the U.S. very soon. So every week there's things that happen, and you just have to take them in stride. And getting these emails and these pieces of communication with us is the sources of inspiration for us to keep going and keep doing what we'd doing.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't explain how a company that was originated in California, right?
No, Colorado.
Oh, Colorado, sorry, my bad. I get those C's mixed up. That's not for me. In Colorado, is able to bring their product to other states without interstate commerce being allowed for flower to go across borders. How does the Wana brand get their recipe and their secret sauce into each state where you guys sell your product?
So the thing is, though, flower could be, in the paradigm that you're referring to, flower could be interstate commerce in that sense. So what happens is in the United States, cannabis is federally illegal. We all know that. So each state basically has a jurisdiction to make their decision if they want to legalize cannabis. They want to do on the medical side, the rec side, adult use, or a mixture of both. So what we do and what many other brands are doing is within each market, they can manufacture and sell the product within the confines and the demarcations of that state. The product cannot leave the state to be sold, but can be purchased, made within that state. So what we've done successfully, I would say, is we've been able to find really good partners in multiple markets that have the licenses and that we're legally producing, manufacturing, and selling our product in those markets.
And doing quite well, Chief Revenue Officer, aren't you?
I think we are. We are. We're expanding the brand, which is the most important thing. And we are obviously increasing the markets where Wana can touch. And it's really nice to see, people in the West Coast and the Midwest and now the East Coast who are getting familiarized with our brand. And, cannabis, especially edibles, everyone has their sort of uncomfortable edibles experience where they first tried edibles. They had an uncomfortable experience, took too much, etc. And so a lot of people are reticent to getting back in and trying cannabis and more appropriately edibles. And so it's really nice that Wana can be that entry point for them to re-engage with the plant. And that's really how we see ourselves as a conduit for the plant. And so if we can utilize our brand, utilize our IP, utilize the products that we're producing and manufacturing to really benefit people's lives and get them re-engaged with the cannabis plant, that to us is success.
In as many states as possible, while those flowers and the growers of the flower, it's, to me, as always, it comes down to the fact that it's a federally illegal plant that needs the respect of an entire world.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
And that's why everybody knows my closing line is it's a whole new world of weed out there. So use it responsibly. It's something I believe in, and I preach now on a regular basis. So for Eric Block, I'm Jimmy Young, again reporting live for Green Rush Live from MJ UNPacked. We'll be back after this.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Cannabis Media and PCM TV programming is supported by Revolutionary Clinics in Massachusetts, the #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Salient Systems for Video Surveillance. You've got regulations, Salient has solutions for your security needs. And by Accounting Buds, your #1 accounting solution for the cannabis industry. And by TCP's Style Lighting Grow Kit, all you need to grow. Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another half hour of Green Rush Live on a Friday afternoon. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the sometimes host of Green Rush Live, the business of cannabis show. And we're at MJ UNPacked in New York. And I got to tell you, I told you before the break that this next guest has a target consumer, someone who likes sex.
Anyone that has or wants to have better sex is really going to be my target market.
And her name is Tanya Griffin. Tanya, I already feel like I'm like besties with you.
Well, because we're sitting so close.
I know. You have to do that to get in the frame. It's about the rule of thirds.
We would have done it anyway.
I tend to think this now. First of all, let's get legit here. Right. I happen to know that the cannabis industry has many products, many entrepreneurial women who have identified the plant as a tool to improve and enhance their sex that they have.
Absolutely, and great companies. So the answer is yes to that. We've got Foria, Vela, Quim. I'm trying to think of a few. Blossom Organics. Here's what they do very well and what I do differently.
Okay, but hang on. Before you do it, she's unique.
Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of yourself.
Oh my God. I have so many lines. I am blushing. What do you want from me? The camera doesn't lie. Ooh, yes.
Oh, yes, for orgasm.
I knew the O was for orgasm, but I'm like an ooh, yes.
Okay, go your way. Go your way. No, seriously, I don't want to get in your way.
So it's OOyes.
Yes.
.love.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's all about the love, baby.
is about the
It's
love.
all about the, yeah.
Boy, but I don't know about you. I've had my heart broken many, many, many
Yeah,
times.
but makeup sex is good, right? Yeah, right.
Okay, Tanya. Yes, indeed. All right. Tell us about, first of all, how did you discover this first, and then tell me how you got into the business. Is that okay?
Well, I'm going to start with how I got in the business because that's how I discovered it.
Oh.
You know, right? Because it's a. So I have been in this incestuous little cannabis business since 2012. I built the first vertically integrated national franchise in the country with the Green Solution, and I won some of the first Florida and Illinois licenses. And I exited to an MSO a couple of years ago, which allows me to self-fund my sex shenanigans and a few other companies.
All right. Sex Shenanigans, by the way, is a freaking great name for a talk show. I just want to tell you.
Well, you can have it. You can have it.
One step at a time here.
All
One
right.
step at a time.
All right.
I thought you're not Colorado then.
I am. I am living in Colorado for the last 6 years, but I started my company, Water and Trees. It's a growth management company, and I was building and scaling healthcare companies in Chicago. And I, sitting in a surgical center, and I'm reading that medical cannabis is coming to town. And at this point, I'm married to a blues musician who's smoking pot in the basement, and it was a sort of a natural segue to go after. And I obviously understood this is something I should be selling.
The products. Hang on a second.
Not the sex.
Right? No. That's why I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. I am blushing again. By the way, not a difficult thing for me, okay, especially with subjects like this.
All
Come on.
red. You can't see it. He's as red
It's
as
my
my coat.
it's my natural color. Okay, come on. It's my natural color. This, by the way, this has a chance to go viral. Keep going. So tell me, keep going on with your story because it is fascinating.
So
Blues musician.
yeah, that was a mistake. What that is what it is.
We all make mistakes in life, and we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes.
Correct.
Bill Gates actually reinforced that recently.
Well, they all do. Yeah. See, I mean, all of those guys. We can learn. I have made many mistakes.
Made mistakes. Made many men. Made many. Okay. So we all have. Okay, but now you've had some success of your own because you did a successful exit, as they say.
I did.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to hear those secrets. Oh, and by the way.
Do I smell good?
No, I just got a waft.
I
just got a
when
waft.
in Rome.
It's not smell-o-vision, folks, but
No.
if you know what we're talking about,
there's
we
a-
are at a cannabis
The
show.
dab
all right?
rigs are going. Puffco is
here.
has lit up
Okay,
around the corner.
All right. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus because I don't want to do that indoors.
Yeah.
And we were just talking to Charlie Alovisetti from Vicente Sederberg
Yep.
about you walk down the streets of New York now and you get the
choose-
waft, right?
Absolutely.
Same thing happened in
Absolutely.
Massachusetts when it went legal.
Yes.
Voted by once the vote came in, forget the rules, the regulations.
It's all get in there.
The people
Smokes-
voted.
The people have voted.
Right, the people voted. I'm smoking weed in public. This is what was going on, right?
It's fair.
Okay, all right. So back to your story. I'm sorry. I have a feeling we're going to do a lot of digression in this interview. Go ahead.
Yes. So you asked originally how I fell into sex. That I've been a small business. I've owned small businesses for 33 years, and I started. This is applicable. I started with a company in 1995 after the birth of the first of my 4 children with Kangaroo Kids. So I am a midwife and lactation consultant. I help women breastfeed. So it's always been about, some body part in my world.
I get you. But
So-
go back to breastfeeding because you know that's
Breastfeeding.
in the news right now because there's a shortage of formula.
I saw that. Please, ladies out there, breastfeed your children.
As long as you possibly
As long
can.
as you, I did it like I'm an African woman. So this is for another show, and nobody wants to hear that story. But
I'm going on a limb thinking there are probably some Scandinavian women that do it a long time. I
Well,
don't think
I
Africa
just-
is the only country.
no,
I just
absolutely.
Thank you.
No, but in Scandinavia they don't. In the European countries they cut them off sooner. So that
I'm
was not,
shocked.
No, that was
She
a
knows her
legit-
lactate history.
I definitely-
Obviously more than I do.
So I always joke that my journey, you're going to like this, it has been from colostrum, which is the pre-melt, to cannabis to come. For good reason, because this is my crescendo, the sex brand. But I started helping women.
Yes.
Yeah. I started helping women for, my stores, Kangaroo Kids, are still in Europe and in the U.S., and that was about helping women with their parenting and breastfeeding needs.
And by the way,
And this is
let me ask you a question. We agree on a lot of things, I can tell already. Isn't parenting...
breastfeeding?
No, hang on a second. Just bear with me. Isn't parenting the toughest job any of us have ever had?
Oh, of course. I was a very laissez-faire parent. I just stuck a tit in their mouth and we called it a day. So it depends on...
If I was an infant, it would have worked for me, okay? I don't remember that far back, so,
That's right.
okay.
So, but of course, parenting is...
It really is. So and women, I've always believed, because you can actually create a human in your body, we can only cause it. We are the cause of a lot of issues, actually. That being said, I've always felt that there should be more women in business. There should be more women in politics, because every heterosexual male that I know knows that the woman is the boss in the relationship.
Yes, I think so too. And absolutely, we should be running companies.
100%.
Especially post-pandemic, we have a different way of looking at things.
And now I'm going to ask you a news question,
Wow.
a business question.
Whoa, I'm ready.
Okay, because as you know, there's a
There was no
trend.
prep for this.
No, there wasn't. No. Really? Really?
it
Anybody who
show?
knows me knows this. Oh my God, Jimmy's met somebody. Oh my God. Okay.
Go for it.
So, the percentage of women in the cannabis industry at the C level 8 years ago, I believe was close to 27%, and it's now down to 8%.
Ouch.
So that means access to capital. You were an example, merger and acquisition. I'm going out on a limb. I don't know this. I didn't do any due diligence, okay? That you were acquired by a company that was a male dollar bill controlled company. Right?
Yeah, of course.
See? Now let me ask you, if a female private equity company came along and wanted to acquire your company, would you have gone with the male company or the female company?
Listen, I dream of an all-female cap table.
Good.
There's only a handful of us doing this right now, so that's a challenge.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right, so I have no idea where we were before this.
We're heading into the brands.
Okay.
Eventually, we're going to talk about sex.
No, let's,
Yes,
let's talk about the brands first, shall we? Okay? And then we'll see if we run out of time or not.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the trajectory here is, how did I get to this place? And it is because I believe sex is very important to all of us. It's like eating and sleeping. I never intended to. You mentioned the other wonderful companies in the market that are actively helping women with issues around pain and menstrual cycles and menopause around sex. Foria, Quim, Blossom Organics, these companies are focused on those issues. I am not. I am all about having great sex. I think sex is about, good communication, showing up, staying present. I'm just got some toys to take you there. That's some fun to take you there.
Am I in trouble at home? I am. But you're giving me a gift to take home.
Well, we'll start with the blowjob. I think we'll start with going down. This is our oral sex elixir.
Okay.
So I flavored it with terpenes, so it's like an orange creamsicle. I put the honey in there. We have patents out of Israel that are wrapped around feeding bees cannabis. We have organic farms in Santa Maria, California. And this is our other company, Aha Honey. And I took this bee-fused honey, which by nature is essentially naturally nano-emulsified, and I wrapped it through our 8 products. So everything you will appreciate is tied to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So going down, I may have a quiz for you. I'll give you this one. Freddie King, great blues guy.
Yeah?
Start Me Up. That's our lickable lube, water-based. Who is that? Come on, baby.
Start Me Up is the Stones.
Yes. All right. How about...
I didn't know this was going to be like,
it's a
name
quiz.
that tune.
Oh, yeah. Roll
Okay.
Baby Roll is our roll-on sex saw rollerball for the clitoris. Roll Baby Roll. You got this, my friend. Come on. JM. Hint. No. JM is the lead singer. That's a hint. I'm going to give it to you. It's the doors. Yes, you got it. You got it. You got it.
Jim Morrison. I mean, that was like you were handing it. That was a layup to me.
We've got a groove grease is our massage oil candle. I put 1,000 milligrams of CBD and CBG, and I made it with the beeswax and the honey from the farms.
So
light
is a
it.
burning candle.
Oh, more than that. You light this thing.
Yeah.
This pairs well with every.
Come on,
drug.
baby, light my fire.
You
right?
pour it all over. Well, Groove Grease is Jimmy McGriff. He's a funkadelic jazz guy. Just a great album. But you get together, you pour it all over each other, slip and slide all over.
Wait. The wax you're pouring all over.
Well, it's a candle, but you light it and you drip it all over each other. Right?
Isn't
and then
that
you.
hot?
Yeah, that's the intention.
Doesn't it burn you?
No, come on. It's lukewarm.
I know it's that
Hey,
pain,
a little
pain pleasure threshold, right?
Light BDSM. We do upcycle bicycle tubing handcuffs. I have partnerships with the bicycle shops in Denver.
Of course you do.
And I've got, this wonderful trans community is making us light, handcuffs made out of upcycled bicycle tubing and some whips. That's not in the cannabis space, but we sell those in our sex shops and stuff.
Hang on a second. I'm not that naive, okay? There is that S&M type of sex,
Yeah,
correct?
but you weren't willing for a little lukewarm wax
I'm
on
not
you.
talking about me. I'm talking about in general. All right. Excuse me. I already got choked up by that. Woo. Sorry about
Red again, folks.
that. I was born red.
Yes. European, Irish.
Try Jewish,
English.
Russian. Try Jewish, Russian, Polish on both sides. Oh my God! Well, as soon as she mentioned the promised land, Israel, I was going to say, okay, she's going to. We were Yanovsky coming off the boat. All right. What can I tell you? This is getting very personal. People are finding out shit about me that I didn't expect them to do.
Here's another one for you,
Okay.
just in case, because we're going.
Let's
through
see
the
how
products.
fast it takes me to go blush now.
These don't have cannabis in them, but I medicated them with sorbitol and herbs. These are dry mouth lozenges. Here, take. They're lovely. They work great with oral sex, but if you're smoking a joint with
it's
what
one
you're
of the-
doing, you got
hang on a
to.
second.
Everything is better wet.
It is one of the first physiological things that happens to anyone.
I agree.
Who partakes in
I
the
agree.
right? And by the way,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be smoking either. You
No,
can
no,
have
no,
it
no.
by tincture or by vape or whatever. You're going to get a little dry mouth. And you're
Correct.
always looking for stuff like this.
Well, taste. Can you eat? Can you talk and eat, or what should we do here? Because they're beautiful. They're lovely.
Another 15 minutes. I
All
can
right,
keep talking.
All right. But so the tongue in cheek of this is obviously with oral sex. Oh, sorry.
I mean, there's nothing that comes out of her mouth that doesn't have double innuendo
It's
here,
too
right?
easy.
It is too easy. Well, by the way, it's
Literally
not
too
dissimilar to the cannabis industry.
Correct.
Right? All the fun puns
That's the double
that the idiot media people who don't understand that actually you're disrespecting professional business people now, right?
Correct.
So anyway, go ahead.
Well,
That's
these
very
little
cool.
guy. Well, this is just an add-on, and of course, so we currently all the products I brought because have CBD, CBG, our patented bee-fused honey. I flavor them with terpenes. So these are selling currently online. We're in sex shops. We're in high-end women's boutiques. But we have a Sexperience O-Box. We have partners with boutique hotels and Airbnbs. So for that, look at it. You can get, we give you 2 condoms. We give you wet. We give you unplugged, which is just our straight-up silicone lube. Start Me Up, which is our water-based lickable lube, and Going Down for oral sex, $69. I mean, quadruple that in Las Vegas. We're in some Las Vegas shops that are a lot more expensive, but $69 and you are good to go. And then we have this is the most important.
Do you know whose favorite number 69 is? You're not going to know who this person is, but everybody knows that I'm a sports guy. And Rob Gronkowski always says, 69, that's my favorite number. And he wears 87, okay? So that makes no sense.
Right.
Do you know who Gronk is? No. That's okay. You're not a sports person.
Embarrassing, I'm not.
That's all right. You're embarrassing me.
I'm too busy having sex.
You're embarrassing
What are
me.
you doing?
Hosting a talk show that has gone right down the tubes. Okay, let's just say no. It's been awesome. I actually love the entrepreneurial spirit
Okay, good.
of
Thank
people
you.
in the industry.
Yeah, I do
because
too.
and look
I do
at
too.
what you've done. You've looked at yourself. You said, wait a second, we can create stuff that can enhance one of the most pleasurable things all humans want, right?
What's the other one? If one of, What's the other one that they want?
Well, I got to tell you something. I'll tell you what it is. Don't forget it. I was an athlete.
Okay.
So
yeah.
the adrenaline
I
rush
get
that
it.
you get when you play sports at a high level.
Cannot disagree with you.
It is, first of all, it's ego stroking.
It's
physical,
endorphins.
the whole
Dopamine.
they call it being in the zone.
Yes.
When you get to that point where you're just, it's the
glad
sports
I asked.
scene. It's the sports scene. I can go into this.
You're right.
It's 10,000 repetitions. So Tanya, Will Chamberlain had his book about.
Oh yeah, 10,000 girls.
It's 10,000 repetitions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's put in
I'm
his
not going to ask
10,000
you
hours.
what number you're at, Tanya. I
Yeah.
won't ask you. Okay? I don't need to know that.
I'm
We
making
don't
up
need
for
to.
lost time.
That's,
I'm
okay. Let's keep
daily
going.
or twice a day now, but I'm making up.
It's all that research and test products that you're doing.
Field work. It's a tax write.
It's lab work. I understand. It's lab work.
Well, let me give you one more thing.
You've given me quite a bit.
We have these 8 products, but really, when I built the brand, it was about opening communication and having fun with sex, being playful with sex, and showing up. So I built a sex quiz, an online sex quiz.
Okay.
Which works in our hotels and our travel partners.
Right,
but
no, that's great because you engage with your partner.
That's right. That's right.
In some kind of, and by the way, the sex organ is the brain.
Correct.
See?
I
may have flunked.
We are not sexologists. We made that up.
No,
Me
it's true.
confirming doesn't mean it's right.
No, it's right because I took a class at Tufts University on sex.
Oh.
I did.
All right.
And the lab work was great.
Yes.
But I really didn't do well in the exam because multiple choice tests, I'm learning challenged.
Yeah.
So forget especially in a sex class, every answer looked good.
Yes. That's fair. That's fair. Well, my test for you.
I got a C+.
Well, you passed.
Average plus.
You passed.
I can average plus. It's all right.
Well,
it's kind of my story of my life.
For you is the Oh Yes Sex Quiz. So you go on your phone and you say, oh yes, oh no, or oh maybe so to 100 different sex acts. And we give you descriptions. So if you don't know what it is, we give you pictures and descriptions. And then we give you
They're
your
not moving
key
pictures,
score.
though, are they?
Some of them are, and not all of them. Not all of them, but you can then share it with your partner. So if you're both up for a threesome, you know that, and that just inherently makes sex good.
3 humans.
Well, yeah.
I just want to make sure.
A threesome.
Because there's some wild crap out there right now. I just want to say.
Well, threesome is not the wild side of the crap. I would argue. I'm not sure the threesome gets it.
All right. Let's talk about business. Okay.
Yes.
Business.
Yes.
So Colorado, there are THC infused products here, correct?
In front of you, these are all using CBD, CBG, beef-fused honey, and terpenes.
I didn't hear THC.
No THC in what's sitting here. We are next quarter. We will be in Colorado dispensaries with a THC, so a true vagina high. We'll be in there with that. And then I just won licenses in Illinois, so we're next going into the Illinois market with this brand with a THC infused.
Seems to me like I just talked to a beverage guy who had shots.
Oh.
Available with THC infused shots in whatever soda.
Sure.
Beer tasting devices that aren't alcohol, and I'm like, it can't be beer without alcohol. I mean,
right.
It is. I get it. There's non-alcoholic beer. I get it.
Right.
But why would you drink a non-alcoholic beer just out of curiosity? Because I think the taste sucks.
Right. It's like eating meat when you're a vegetarian. I agree with you.
Okay. Let's not get into that because
No.
I'm a meat and potatoes. Right. We're going to digress very easily. Very easily. Okay.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily need a license to produce this. Or do you?
Well, no. So when I'm selling direct to consumer and in women's boutiques and sex shops or the hotels, no, because it has non-psychoactive cannabinoids. Having said that, we currently sell in dispensaries in Colorado because we're approved by the Department of Health, and we're adding a distillate to all of these formulations. So Start Me Up, Roll Baby Rolling, Going Down, we'll all be spiked with THC in the Colorado and Illinois markets to start.
Wasn't Jeff Beck doing Going Down? Didn't he do a song?
Yeah, your guitar players, my
Yeah. That's it. When you said Going Down, and that's a really.
Freddie King really is going to, you know, so it's really, but Jeff Beck definitely.
My brain, as you can see. And by the way, here's a thing that I learned when I met, I give him credit, John Dvorak. He runs around Massachusetts as the hemp expert. He's got a hemp museum that he's traveled, mobile hemp museum. And when I said, well, hemp isn't psychoactive, he almost took my head off. Because the cannabinoids do interact with your psyche. They do interact with your head. What they're not are intoxicating.
I think that's a fair statement. And if you're not doing a broad spectrum, if you're not stripping out the THC, you have THC in hemp products. Needless, I mean, because that's the conduit that brings it through the system.
Right, and we've heard stories. Plenty of people have failed drug tests taking hemp-derived products.
I believe that is to be true.
Oh no, it's true. I'm like, I feel like I'm exhausted. I feel like I need a cigarette. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, can you smoke in here? They're smoking weed. I think you should.
No. I kid because I can. How do people? First of all, we're based in Massachusetts, but we literally have viewers all over the world.
Wonderful.
Texas is the most watched state.
Texas, I can send you any amount of lube you want, my friend. Absolutely. So all of these we sell in Texas.
You know people who probably would like these products in Texas.
All you have to do is either follow us, by the way, at OOyes.love on Instagram. Go on our website and take the sex quiz, and we can send you stuff anywhere in the country, of course.
Okay, all right. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to allow her, Tanya, to ask me one choice question.
Oh my God, the pressure.
And you have pressure now because now I'm getting the low battery warning on the phone. So we're going to have to plug in. So yeah, it's going to have to be a quickie. What's that? It's that nooner quickie we talked about, right? All right. Sorry. All right. Ask me the question. Go ahead.
Wait, what?
You asked me the sex quiz question.
Oh, okay. Well, we've already tackled threesome, and I don't think I should talk to you about fisting. So let's go to. No. I want to do about have you been videotaped? Would you like to have some public displays of affection and videotape yourself and your partner? Just speaking
I was going to say, not if it includes my partner.
Yeah. You're going to have to cut that.
All right. I'm just saying. All right. At this point, I think somebody is knocking on the door and wants to get into the studio, which is fine. I have no problem with that because this is time to wrap things up. Tanya Griffin, you have been a very special interview. I've done a lot of them, but I've never had so many blush opportunities with you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for having
me. She's Tanya Griffin. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly, and don't forget, Weed Talk News coming up next. Don't go away.
Coming up on We Talk News this week, the DOJ tells the Supreme Court to back off rulings on current cannabis cases. Could there be federal reform on the horizon? The DEA allows federal weed to be grown for research as Bright Green Corporation bucks the bear market and their stock soars. Canadian company Canopy Growth makes an acquisition. Woody Harrelson opens an LA Cannabis Social Club. And MJ UNPacked in New York gets underway in the Big Apple. All that and more on We Talk News next. Pro Cannabis Media original content is supported by Salient Systems, your trusted name in video surveillance for the cannabis industry, and by Revolutionary Clinics, Massachusetts' #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Accounting Buds, CPA services for the cannabis industry, and by stylighting.shop. Log on today to get your grow kit.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News. I'm Alina Pinto reporting for Pro Cannabis Media. Hot off the press, Democratic lawmakers have just spent their efforts at a federal hearing urging Congress to make it easier for people to get pardoned for cannabis. The group, including Jerry Nadler, said streamlining applications for pardons could help address mass incarceration and allow more Americans access to jobs, housing, and education. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is now telling the U.S. Supreme Court to back off cases concerning cannabis. The department's message seems to acknowledge the seeming inevitability that cannabis matters will be resolved legislatively as Congress continues to consider proposals to federally legalize the plant. Vote Pro Podcast's Phil Adams takes a closer look at what's happening on Capitol Hill this week.
Hi, I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast, here with the Weed Talk News DC report. State regulators are telling Congress that cannabis banking reform is a matter of public safety. The nonpartisan Cannabis Regulators Association sent a letter to congressional leaders explaining how denying cannabis companies the same access to financial services that every other industry enjoys impacts not only the businesses, but the regulators themselves. Among their chief areas of concern is cannabis businesses being forced to operate on a cash-only basis, making them targets for crime. The letter cites recent examples of violent robberies that have occurred at dispensaries in several states. The letter goes on to describe how the problem is impacting the very agencies regulating cannabis, saying, quote, even CANRA, an organization comprised entirely of government officials, has faced challenges in acquiring financial services because we have cannabis in our name. In a related story, Representative Earl Blumenauer, who has championed the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, expressed a measure of optimism this week about the likelihood of banking reform finally passing both houses of Congress. This comes as lawmakers are meeting in conference to resolve the differences between the House-passed America Competes Act, which includes banking reform, and the Senate U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, which does not. Blumenauer said, quote, I think there's an opportunity to finally get this across the finish line. The Department of Justice is urging the Supreme Court to decline review of a case concerning workers' compensation for medical cannabis. The DOJ filed an amicus brief with the court recommending that the matter be addressed instead by Congress and/or the executive branch. The case involves workers in Minnesota who had sought compensation for medical cannabis from their employers after being injured on the job. The question before the High Court is whether the Federal Controlled Substances Act preempts a state law requiring private businesses to pay for the medicine. The Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that it did, and that the companies were not obligated to pay. Plaintiffs in the case argued that because employers don't actually possess or distribute the cannabis themselves, simply compensating employers does not violate federal law. The DOJ brief argues that for states to compel third parties to subsidize federal crimes would amount to overriding congressional intent. That's the Weed Talk News DC report for this week. I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast.
Florida-based Bright Green Corporation making big moves. The company says it's been given conditional approval from the DEA to grow cannabis for research purposes. Bright Green is also making history as the first plant-touching company to trade on a major U.S. exchange. Our own Jimmy Young and Deborah Borchardt have more in this week's Green Market Report, live from MJ UNPacked in the newly green state of New York. Jimmy.
Thank you, Elena Pinto. As we continue here on We Talk News, I'm Jimmy Young at the MJ UNPacked convention here at Hilton in Midtown, New York. Now, I am not a big fan of New York City. However, when you come to New York City, who better to hang out with than Deborah Borchardt of the Green Market Report? Hi, Deborah.
Hey. Good to see you here in our city, our fine, fine city.
So where do I go for dinner tonight? No, we'll talk about that later. I'm only kidding. We laugh because we can, but there are some very serious big stories in the world of cannabis business news. One coming out of Florida and New Mexico with federal implications. Can you take us through what happened with this publicly traded company that the federal government supposedly has approved?
Right. So it's a company called Bright Green, and they began trading this week on the NASDAQ. And if a lot of our viewers know, a lot of American cannabis companies aren't allowed to trade on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange because they say cannabis is still federally illegal. Now, this company said, well, we're going to have an agreement with the DEA to grow cannabis and sell it for research. So the NASDAQ thought, well, okay, that means it's going to be legal cannabis. So they said, sure, you can go on and trade. Now, this was a direct listing, which meant they came to the exchange with their investors already lined up. Now, what was interesting about this situation is that the company has no revenue. They have no existing cultivation facilities, so they have no product. They have about $1 million in cash, but they need $76 million to build this cultivation facility. Everyone that's in the company is from the automotive industry. They have zero cannabis experience, so it's just kind of odd all the way around. And then on top of that, the insiders are not. They don't have restricted stock, which usually a company will tie up that stock for a while so that they don't just sell it right away. And in this situation, they don't. They can sell it right away. And the stock actually was doing really well, so it's a little scary about that.
Well, I think that's why that story stuck out to me, is because every other story you hear about the stock market this week is it's blown up, it's horrible. I heard from my broker today. I mean, they're a little freaked out there. And then here's this story that is a better story sizzle than a company that went public.
I think that a lot of media did not look a little further into the story. They just saw the headline and the presser that said, hey, this cannabis company is trading on NASDAQ. Isn't this a great thing? It's a big deal. And it would be a big deal if it was a legitimate company. But I feel like I don't want to say it's a pump and up, but I feel like it's got the leanings of that because, again, they have no cannabis. They've not grown any cannabis. They're saying that they're going to have their first harvest 2 months after building the cultivation facility, which anybody in cannabis is going to say 2 months, it's impossible.
So how did they deal with the DEA? How did they get anything?
So the DEA actually has several contracts with companies to grow cannabis for them. As most people that have followed cannabis knows that the University of Mississippi was the first and only place for many, many years. Well, they expanded that program, but right now this company only has a memorandum of agreement, so they don't have an actual contract, and they won't until they have actual product that is in an approved facility.
Little bit the cart before the horse there. Better sizzle sell than substance.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of spin in that press release and not a lot of meat.
Well, we're going to find out what happens. Not to put you on the spot, but are there any other maybe one or two little tidbits from the business world you want to share before I toss it back to Elena?
Well, we did have a lot of big companies report earnings this week. And what I will say, I won't go into all of them, but I did see a trend in that we saw a lot of these companies had revenues in the first quarter that fell from the fourth quarter. So we saw that dip. And then they're all saying that things are already looking great for the second quarter. Their numbers versus last year's first quarter were very good. So I'm starting to feel that we're starting to get into a traditional retail cycle where you've got stuff going on in the second quarter. You got 4/20. Third quarter's 4th of July. Fourth quarter's Thanksgiving and Christmas. First quarter, not a whole lot. So I think that that's why we're seeing these sales dip in the first quarter from the fourth. I'm not super concerned about that, but I've just seen this trend. I think it's just interesting to follow.
She's Deborah Borchardt from the Green Market Report, always looking for those trends. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, reporting live from MJ UNPacked in New York. Let's go back to Elena with We Talk News.
The Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission reporting this week that licensed retailers across the Bay State have now sold more than $3 billion worth of legal recreational cannabis products since sales launched. Clearly a high jump happening in Massachusetts when you consider the $2 billion mark for sales was just crossed 8 months ago. Here's Ron Marshalsea with more from the Bay State this week.
I'm Ron Marshalsea for We Talk News. This is the Massachusetts Cannabis Report. The Massachusetts House voted overwhelmingly on Wednesday to approve major reforms to the state's marijuana laws. The bill, which had a 153-2 vote in favor of it, according to Boston.com, has the changes that would allow cities and towns to opt in to hosting marijuana cafes, steer a significant chunk of state pot tax revenue to equity applicants trying to get their small cannabis businesses off the ground, crack down on controversial local fees charged to marijuana operators while easing their state tax burden, and make it easier for former defendants to wipe away old marijuana charges. And on the same day these reforms were passed by the House, state officials reported Massachusetts adult use marijuana sales have officially surpassed $3 billion since the market launched in 2018. The CCC also noted that it's only been 8 months since the state reported sales had exceeded $2 billion. And the official 420 sales numbers from the CCC were $5,986,186 in marijuana sales on that one day alone, which was a little over $1 million more than last year. And finally, actor Sacha Baron Cohen has dropped his lawsuit that was filed last year against a Bay State dispensary that used an image of his character Borat on a billboard without his permission. Cohen and his company were seeking $9 million in damages, but a document filed in Boston federal court on Tuesday said the two sides have agreed to dismiss the case. That's this week's Massachusetts Cannabis Report. For We Talk News, I'm Ron Marshalsea.
Actor and well-known stoner Woody Harrelson has opened the doors to a new cannabis business in West Hollywood. The Woods is the name of the new venture, which comedian Bill Maher and interior designer Thomas Scoos are partners of. The Woods includes a retail dispensary, delivery outlet, on-site consumption lounge, as well as a bar and restaurant. Things haven't been so glamorous, though, for other cannabis companies in the Golden State, but Governor Gavin Newsom has announced revisions to his newest budget proposal. The revisions aim to temporarily reduce taxes and simplify the tax structure for cannabis companies, as well as put money toward local governments to help expand retail. Christopher Smith from the American Cannabis Report has more in our California report.
Greetings from the center of the cannabis universe. I'm Christopher Smith, and this is the California Roundup for Weed Talk News. California Governor Gavin Newsom is playing three-card Monte with cannabis taxes in an effort to appear that he's trying to fix things. See if you can follow this budgetary sleight of hand. He's proposing to eliminate the grower's tax, but shift the distributor tax to the retailers, backfill any temporary tax gap with up to $150 million from the general fund, in addition to the $100 million he already put back into the industry to fix the regulatory mess, and raise the excise tax from 15% to 19% if none of this works. All of this instead of taking the advice of the Reason Foundation, which found that if we just eliminate the cultivator tax, just that, it would increase sales so much that tax revenues would double in 18 months. But hey, why do things the sensible way? As we have reported here week after week, many of California's small legacy cannabis growers who built California's reputation for the world's greatest cannabis flower are in trouble. They're facing wholesale price collapse, stupidly high taxes that are like catnip for a banging illicit market, and no way to compete against the larger operators in the state's volatile wholesale marketplace. You think it's the end for these brave farmers? Not so fast, Babalooey. Justin Calvino has set out to bring larger margins back to the state's smaller farms with the launch of Emerald Road, a cryptocurrency-exclusive, blockchain-backed e-commerce platform. Emerald Road allows consumers to interact directly with farmers and purchase product for delivery through Organic Kind, a licensed cannabis delivery service, all throughout the state. Boy, are we resilient, Calvino said, patting himself on the back vigorously. We're just reinventing ourselves every day. The Mayor of London, England, Sadiq Khan, has more than a few problems in his hometown, but he's open to the novel idea that one big dumb problem is that cannabis is illegal. Like virtually everywhere in the world, when people want something, they're going to figure out how to get it. And no amount of finger wagging or politician posturing or law enforcement is going to stop them, ever. Khan says the illegal drugs trade causes huge damage to our society, and we need to do more to tackle this epidemic and further the debate around our drugs laws. That's why I'm here today in Los Angeles, to see firsthand their approach and to see the approach they've taken for cannabis. In support of the idea, Sophie Linden, who is London's deputy mayor for policing and crime, said the move is vital as it reduces the harm and misery caused by illegal drugs and the illegal drugs industry in London. And I'm Christopher Smith, publisher of the American Cannabis Report, bringing you the straight dope on California tax tricks, new farmers' website clicks, and London mayor looking for a drug war fix. For We Talk News.
Something new could be brewing down south. Reports out of Louisiana claim that the state's Senate Health and Welfare Committee is considering a bill to move regulation of medical cannabis from the state agriculture department to the health department. It would also allow existing dispensaries to open satellite locations. So sticking with the South, let's check in with Heather Allman to see what's happening in Florida this week.
It's time for the weekly Florida report from We Talk News. And this week I'm not in Florida. I'm in Iowa visiting my parents. But as you can see, I'm still Heather Allman from Cannabis Law Report. In fantastic news this week, Miami has finally issued its first medical cannabis dispensary license, only 6 years after Florida legalized medical cannabis. According to NBC6, Miami officials voted 3-2 to award the license to the city's first dispensary, MRC44. The dispensary sued the city over its failure to license any dispensaries, as we previously reported. Commissioner Manolo Reyes opposed the approval, commenting that a clear distinction needs to be made between medical and recreational. And on the flip side, Commissioner Ken Russell, who voted in favor of the approval, thinks an alternative form of pain medication is crucial. Although this is Miami's first medical dispensary, there are 425 other licensed dispensaries throughout the state. A Floridian is moving on up in the world of cannabis. That is, Flora Growth announced the appointment of regulatory veteran Holly Bell as Vice President of Regulatory Affairs. Flora Growth is a leading all-outdoor cultivator, manufacturer, and distributor of global cannabis products and brands. And Holly Bell will play a critical role in the company's domestic and global expansion strategy, as well as government relations in key international markets. Most recently, Bell was the first director of cannabis for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and she helped create the first commercial hemp program in Florida and developed extensive educational resources about that program. At Flora, Bell will oversee the regulatory strategy that supports the advancement of their cultivation and pharmaceutical programs, including the company's regulatory submissions and interactions with global authorities. She will also look to develop another curriculum educating university students, companies, and governments about the business of cannabis. This week, Vera Hill, the nation's leading facilitator of medical cannabis cards, reasserted its commitment to the Florida medical cannabis market by partnering with over 20 healthcare locations in the Sunshine State. This move will help more than 1 million Americans who depend on Vera Hill for medical cannabis education, advocacy, and increased accessibility, all of which can help reduce the challenges patients face when trying to meet a healthcare professional that is geographically inconvenient. Since 2017, Vera Hill has helped Floridians gain access to medical cannabis while contributing to the state's medical cannabis program and philanthropic community by donating a portion of the proceeds to Equality Florida Action, Regulate Florida, and FloorCan. They want the new partnerships to encourage lawmakers to remove some of the barriers around telemedicine, among other priorities. About the development, CMO Anthony Dutcher said, quote, Vera Hill is invested in Florida, and we want to ensure a high quality of care and advocacy for our patients. That's a wrap for the We Talk News Florida Report. I'm Heather Allman with Cannabis Law Report, and next week I'll be back in Florida.
State police in Michigan say they are seeing more people grow and sell black market cannabis, particularly on the west side of the state. The agency's marijuana tobacco investigations section got 400 tips last year that led to illegal cannabis investigations, a number they say has been increasing annually for the past 4 years. So with that, let's check in with Michigan NORML Executive Director, Rick Thompson.
Hello again. This is the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News. Let's begin. Well, there's been a lot of media in Michigan recently about children who've eaten foods created with THC. A woman near Flint is being charged with second-degree child endangerment for a schoolhouse incident regarding her daughter and some homemade gummies kept in a freezer. Now, the Cannabis Regulatory Agency has proactively reissued a set of guidelines from 2021 regarding packaging and child-friendly cannabis containers. Michigan's regs regarding cannabis packaging in the medical and adult use markets is some of the most strict in the nation, yet a survey of dispensary shelves reveals a ton of cannabis packages which are not in compliance with the regulatory agency's rules. The CRA promises a crackdown on cartoon images, pictures of candy or fruit, and designs which mimic popular children's food packaging. To date, the CRA has mandated using stickers to cover up the areas of non-compliance with individual packages, but penalties and sanctions are around the corner for companies which design and order packaging which does not conform to Michigan's regulations. Well, the nation's oldest testing laboratory is expanding to Michigan. Steep Hill Labs touts on their website that they opened the first commercial cannabis laboratory in 2008 in California. Their Michigan operation is open and operates on the west side of Ann Arbor and just received their ISO IEC accreditation. Also new to Michigan, Method Man's new cannabis line of products. The legendary rapper and Wu-Tang Clan member has launched the Sweet Island Skunk strain as part of its TCAL product line. TCAL stands for Taking Into Consideration All Lives. And Method's product is being launched in association with the Glorious Cannabis Company from Rochester Hills. And not here yet, but coming soon, is a cannabis line from famed Detroit boxing champion Thomas the Hitman Hearns. His product line is predictably called Hitman Cannabis, is being produced by Premier Grow and is expected to appear in dispensaries this summer. It promises to be knockout smoke for heavy hitters. Final story. The question of the day is, how do you reuse a product? You reuse an old beverage container by refilling it. You reuse an old newspaper by putting it on the bottom of the birdcage. And you can reuse old news by rearranging the words and putting a new title on the story. But how does one reuse an airport? Well, you fill it with cannabis plants, obviously. Marquette County Airport in Michigan's Upper Peninsula hasn't been in operation in years, but it's about to be home to 10,000 square feet of cannabis plants, according to a representative of the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, which owns the property. Well, they've got it all figured out, including what they're going to grow. Mr. Loonsfoot, the representative, claims the tribal entity is going to grow Michigan's strongest strain of cannabis, tested at 36.58% THC and containing 44 recognized cannabinoids. The plan is to sell the product to Upper Peninsula facilities. Phase 2 of the build-out will see the tribe expand to 40,000 square feet of cultivation space. And that's it for the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News.
And finally, a new study into cannabis-related content online. It finds that the plant is portrayed rather positively on TikTok. The study from the Drug and Alcohol Review Journal looked at cannabis-related videos that garnered at least 100 million views on the platform. And the researchers found humor and entertainment videos made for most of the canna content on TikTok, followed by themes like experiences, lifestyle, how-to, and creativity. The study also found more than half of videos portrayed cannabis use positively, also noting that none were age restricted. So while creators and influencers may be struggling with some social media platforms, it seems others may be ready to embrace the power of the plant. And after all, it's a whole new world of weed out there. But remember to use it wisely. And we'll see you next time for Weed Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto for Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, my name's Tai Chang. I'm the president and founder of Aloha Green Apothecary in Hawaii. We're a vertically integrated medical cannabis company with 3 dispensaries, 1 extraction lab, and 1 cultivation center near the North Shore of Oahu. We have over 150 employees now, and we've been working with Adaptive HR to meet our human resource needs. We're super excited to work with them as we expand, and we've grown at least 2-3 times over the last 2 years. So we look forward to a good relationship with Adaptive, and come visit us in Hawaii anytime. Aloha.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are 2 productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information. Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.